Soy Sara, tengo 40 años y trabajo de moza de almacén. El trabajo es muy importante para avanzar, para ser uno mismo, para independizarte, porque yo tenía una prestación, entonces, claro, yo me la jugué a una carta, porque mi primer trabajo era de un mes, me podrían quitar lo que es la paga, y bueno, a raíz de que metí cabeza, pues el señor ha querido pues, que siga trabajando.
Soy Cristian Romero, tengo 21 años y ahora mismo estoy haciendo una formación de fibra hasta el hogar. A los 17 me quedé sin empleo y yo estaba hablando con la que es ahora mi mujer y me dijo, pues yo estoy haciendo el aprender, y vine, me informé y pues empecé a ello.
El programa de Acceder consiste en ayudar a las personas que tienen un objetivo personal, en orientarles, en hacer un seguimiento y en ayudarles a insertarse en el mundo laboral.
Pues yo empecé aquí, pues empecé con el de albañilería. Era al principio porque no teníamos ni estudios ni teníamos nada. De aquí vine así y me salí con el graduado y con el título de albañilería. De todos los cursos que he hecho aquí, en todos, al final del curso he salido trabajando.
Hace 20 años comenzamos viendo las necesidades que tenía la comunidad gitana, sobre todo de personas jóvenes que quieren trabajar por cuenta ajena. Hace como 15, 13 años las ofertas de empleo eran totalmente distintas y ahora sí que, bueno, a lo largo de estos años se han ido adaptando.
Me llamo Nazaret, tengo 22 años, trabajo como programadora informática en Accenture. Yo llegué a la fundación por parte de mi padre. La formación que yo tuve fue un pequeño curso en la fundación del Secretariado Gitano y después de eso nos hicieron hacer las prácticas en la empresa en Accenture y Accenture se fijó en mí y me formó dentro de su empresa. El empleo a mí me ha cambiado la vida totalmente. Tú estás en tu casa, pero no piensas que fuera puede haber algo mejor. Y eso es lo que yo hice. Abrí la puerta y encontré otro mundo que me gustó muchísimo más.
Vengo de un barrio humilde, vengo de la Cañada Real. Con el primer trabajo que tuve fui ascendiendo, me he podido independizar, tengo mi casa, tengo una vida propia.
Ahora que yo tengo un trabajo fijo y que Cristian está empezando, pues estamos pidiendo una hipoteca para comprar una casa.
Optamos a algo más. También te digo del futuro, de otras generaciones que vienen, como mis sobrinos.
Está genial, ¿eh? Yo creo que nuestro trabajo, el mío y el de Cristian, a nuestra familia pues le supone un orgullo. Para nuestros primos pequeños o nuestros hermanos puede ser un referente. Bueno, por ejemplo, mi hermano ahora mismo está estudiando un FP de informática porque quiere trabajar de lo que yo estoy trabajando ahora.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Rafael Saavedra. I am working at Fundación Secretariado Gitano, and I will be accompanying to you today at this event. Thank you very much for being present today at the presentation of the study of results and impact of 20 years of work of the Acceder program. A Spanish program aimed at improving the situation of Roma people through training and employment, which has counted during all these years with the financial support of the European Social Fund. Before we begin, I'd like to address some technicalities. The event, as you can guess, will be in Spanish and also in English. So we recommend that those who do not understand Spanish use the headsets for translation. If you don't have it at this moment, you can find it at close to the stairs, okay? And we also would like to also mention that in addition to the people who are here now, we are broadcasting this presentation via streaming to over 100 of viewers. The Acceder program began as a pilot initiative in 1998 in Madrid and has now been consolidated in 73 cities in Spain, reaching out more than 20,000 Roma people each year. Thanks to the continued support of the European Social Fund and other administration, of course, the Acceder program has contributed to reducing the inequality gap faced by many Roma people in access to employment in our country. It is a program that has shown excellent results, a transformative initiative that generates a real impact on people's life. These results are certified by Red to Red, an external consultancy, who has carried out the impact and results evaluation of the Acceder program, which we will present today later. Before going into details of the evaluation, we are honored to have here with us Nicholas Smith, the European Commissioner for Employment and Social Rights, and our President, Sara Jiménez, President of Fundación Secretariado Gitano. Thank you both for being here with us today. Please, Commissioner.
Good afternoon. Buenos días. Well, first, Madam President of the Fundación Secretariado Gitano, I think it's correct, Gitano. Dear members of the EU Roma Network, dear participants. First, I am very happy to attend this birthday party in a way, because you are celebrating 20 years of a very important program, which gives a very strong signal. 20 years of Acceder, which has helped thousands of people to find a job, and I listened to this lady saying, this job has changed my life. So this is a program that has changed lives of many people. And I must say I'm very proud for Europe also to support this kind of program, because this shows that Europe is changing people's lives. And that's why we have to continue on this. Because this is a program for jobs, but this is a program also to fight discrimination. And I think this is finally what the DNA of Europe is: fighting discrimination and fighting for equality among all European citizens, among all citizens in Europe. Whatever their origin, whatever their belief, whatever their religion, it is about non-discrimination and giving each one the same opportunity, the same possibility. And I think this is a success story in that context. This program proves also that strong partnership built on commitment and trust can deliver results on the ground, and they change people's lives. And I was very pleased to see by myself when I visited your program in Sevilla and your offices in Sevilla, how the concrete positive results have been achieved. I have a really very good recording of your headquarters in Sevilla. By the way, a magnificent city also. I would like to thank the Fundación and the Spanish European Social Fund Managing Authority for their productive cooperation, and especially for their efforts to increase Roma inclusion in all parts of Spanish society. And I think here, this is the symbol, this is the signal, but this is also the hope for millions of Roma in the European Union. I had the opportunity, and I just told you, to visit Roma communities, not in Spain, but outside Spain. And I must say, I did not feel well, seeing how these communities are living, how these communities have been forgotten for decades and perhaps for centuries, how they have been discriminated, how they have not been given the rights and the opportunities. And seeing the children there excluded or having many difficulties to accede to schools, and then later on, when they are adult, to a job, is something which we as Europeans, based on our values, cannot and should never accept. So I think this, what you have achieved, is something strong, is something which should show that there is no fatality. There is nothing like saying, well, these are Roma people, they do not want this and they do not want that. There is no fatality. There is only the rights which have to be given to people and the possibilities which people should get. And then you will see everybody, every citizen, every child has talents, and every child can get a good education and build his or her life. Exeter is undoubtedly one of the success stories in which the EU Roma network should build up and inspire activities in all the other member states where there are Roma communities. So I invite you, and I will support you also through the Roma strategy, because the EU has a Roma strategy. It's good to have a Roma strategy, but we have to implement this Roma strategy on the ground, as you did, as you have been doing now for 20 years through Exeter. Exeter has indeed achieved that, I've seen the last figures, more than 60%, I think 68% of its participants obtain a job, and about the same number of got involved into training. We are, by the way, this year, the year of skills. And this is the year of all those who want to get skilled, who want skills. The children, but also the adults who want really benefit from this initiative of skilling, reskilling people, giving them the skills to get a better job, to change their life, as the lady has mentioned. The Roma community in many parts of Europe continues to face discrimination and socioeconomic exclusion in their daily lives. In Spain, for example, due to the pandemic, there have been setbacks in the unemployment rate of people from the Roma community. The employment gap between the Roma population and the general population is still worrying and is still there. And there is no reason. The only reason is that, well, there is discrimination, there is not investment in school, there is not investment in education, and obviously there are higher difficulties, higher barriers to accede to a job and to accede also to other basic social services like also decent housing. Achieving equality and inclusion for the Roma community is therefore a fundamental right that still requires strong and joint action. Over the next years, it is necessary to improve access to employment, and especially by supporting Roma youth in achieving their successful transition from studies to employment. And I must say, I had in different countries discussion with young people from the Roma communities about their ideas. I met young Roma entrepreneurs with a lot of good ideas, with a lot of plans, and also with a lot of achievements. So I think there is something happening also in the Roma community, and we should support this very strong will in this community finally to overcome the exclusions and to be a full part of our societies. By the way, we need everybody. We are now in a situation where wherever I go, people complain about the shortcoming, about the shortage of labor. How can it come that on one hand we have shortages of labor, we complain that we are missing talents, and on the other hand, we do not give the right opportunities to kids, to children, to young people, to youth, or even to those who are a bit older. I think this is something we have to change and overcome. In this sense, I welcome the Spanish National Strategy for Roma Equality, Inclusion and Participation, which was adopted in 2021. This strategy meets the enabling condition of the new financial period 21-27 and is aligned with the EU Roma framework. Spain is an important leader in working for the rights of Roma people. It has an important Roma population, and therefore, as I said already, it can give very strong signals to other member states with similar communities. Spain has fulfilled its commitment to be more ambitious in its programming by assigning a significant amount of funds to support social inclusion of Roma, with 1/3 of the Spanish programs, including measures targeting explicitly Roma people. The European Social Fund Plus is a key tool in this regard. Together with other EU funds, it contributes to achieving an inclusive and equal European society that gives good opportunities to everyone. In this sense, President von der Leyen proposed to make this year of the European Year of Skills. This Year of Skills also needs to be an opportunity for Roma people. Skills are crucial to improve their situation in the labor market, to reduce the rate of needs young people out of training, out of employment and education among Roma youth, which is particularly high. With the important role that Spain is playing on this subject, the upcoming Spanish presidency of the European Council is also a good occasion to pave the way by inspiring other member states to work more on the subject and ensure the sustainability of your achievements. Fundación Secretariado Gitano is a good example of the value of active collaboration to improve the lives of Europeans. It is the work of organizations like yours that will help us deliver on social Europe, a Europe that works for everybody, for all citizens. We thank you for your work, your achievements, your success, and we wish you many years more. Happy birthday.
Now I would like to invite to our president of the Fundación Secretariado Gitano, Sara Jiménez, please.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Commissioner Schmidt for being here and for accompanying us with this excitement. Thank you for accompanying our Acceder program and our foundation. Thank you for supporting equality of Roma people when it comes to employment. We all know that you worry about the Roma people situation in Europe, and this is very valuable to us. It is valuable for every and each Roma person of Spain and Europe. As we've been debating, the inequality gaps in Spain and Europe still struck Roma people. The Fundación Secretariado Gitano is a Spanish foundation. We work on 77 cities, and we've been working for more than 40 years. And we have two main objectives. Since the beginning, we knew that it was key to change the access to a dignified life for our Roma people. And we had to do this from the point of view of treating people equally, and that is why, as a foundation, we were brave. We were the first foundation to use the ESF to tackle the Roma situation. In the 1977, we already knew that we had to bet on employment, because employment gives us stability and allow us to change many situations. We have to work continuously to achieve this. Working continuously is key to fight Roma people poverty, inequality when it comes to opportunities, fighting all the problems that Roma people face when getting jobs. I mentioned to Commissioner Schmidt that I started working in the Acceder program 20 years ago as a counselor. But many years before, I decided that I wanted to study because my mother was a seller that said to my brother, "You will never find a job because of your looks." This is what I used to listen at home. This is what we felt and lived every day. We also experienced difficulties when it came to renting a home because my brother had surnames that were linked to the Roma community. Our community has lived and has experienced what needs to be changed. We have to have the right to have a dignified life. So we had to get on working. We had to fight discrimination. Thanks to employment, we are the holders of many keys. We can fight discrimination. We can fight against different social inequalities. What had to be done back then? Well, we had to think about the way of doing things. When I hear Commissioner Schmidt, I feel honored. I feel proud because you are a highly responsible person. You are a person that is in a big position, and we, as Roma people, have not always had the chance of being supported by the authorities. So, Fundación Secretariado Gitano has worked in a professional way, and that is why today we can celebrate this 20-year anniversary of the Acceder program. We have
there is a main axis, and we need to be aware that when a Roma person gets access to job, and we need to really underline that you are opening the door to a dignified life to them and their families, but also you're allowing them to interact and be colleagues with people who are not Roma, and that's going to struck death, discrimination, and stereotypes. We also work on discrimination in many other platforms within the companies. These companies, at the very start of our programs, I never said the name of our secretary. So we said Programa Acceder and not Fundación Secretariado Gitano. And now things have changed, and people are willing to work with us and the Secretariado. We started back in 1998 with a pilot project in Madrid with the allocations of the European funds. Otherwise, this could not have been possible. We started team building. When you are facing a complex reality, and employment access for Roma community has always been very complex, we need expertise, professionality. And how did we do that team building? We professionalized them. When it came to vocational training, the teams were intercultural. Roma people and non-Roma people were working hand in hand for the benefit of the Roma community. The profiles were very specific. So there was prospection work, and that we were uniting the needs of companies and the candidates, the Roma candidates that we were providing with an offering through the program. We we provided with expertise and professionality in every single one of our tasks. And this is paramount. When we are talking about Roma community, we need to talk about specific measures. We don't want general programs in order to approach blah, blah. We do need to know specifically the reality of the context of the Roma community in every single territory. And how could we just offer an adapted service? We also had to change our mindset, Roma people themselves. 20 years ago, we did not see how Roma people could just actually launch a freelancer activity. We were rather traditional, and we did not keep this in mind. So Acceder helped in order to have a different mindset. Roma people have different expectations. They are willing to access training and access employment, and also to create their very own freelancing activities. And this is very transformative, not only within the economic activity, but as the promotion and change and promotion of the very Roma community. These 20 years have been possible through the investment of the Economic Social Fund, European Social Fund, because the reality affecting the Roma people is flabbergasting. When you see the extent within the European Council of the reality of the Roma people, actually my blood freezes. I see the discrimination and anti-Roma attitude, the living conditions of Roma communities without access to a dignified housing. We have a responsibility with Roma people. We deserve a dignified condition. So these kind of programs in which institutions, companies, civil society organizations merge and work together, that fosters change. As you saw in the video, you saw the results. More than 111,000 participants. 10% of the Roma people have been covered by this program. More than 33,000 people have access to work, and more than 15,000 companies were collaborating. So, of course, these programs have been working, and we had reached change in the companies for the people and the community. I'm proud of the change that this has created within the heart of Roma women. I remember how hard it was for them to get their driving license, something key for their autonomy and their independence. Why? Because they had a different mindset. The Roma women were women, carers, wives, and they understood the power of training and how powerful it is to contribute financially to their homes. And they are also contributing to the change of the Roma community. And this is what this program is creating and making possible. It is educating and changing the expectations of the Roma people. We are achieving the impact, and we should be more than proud of it. Everyone involved. And everyone that will be involved, because we do need to continue this task steadily, continuously. But our methodology is excellent, and we start a different period when programming. And we know that Roma people are at the very end of the line waiting. So we need to show these results that dignify the society as such. This is not a matter of Roma community. This affects and involves everyone. We need to take this opportunity to share And it's a pleasure for me to share these results with you and our associates that are here today. They belong to different public administrations of Spain, the European Social Fund. There are companies, there are individuals. They made this possible, providing with opportunity to the Roma community in our country. Let's move on and continue this direction, and let's not miss this opportunity to achieve real equality with the Roma people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, European Commissioner Nicolas Schmit and President of the Fundación Secretariado Gitano, Sara Jiménez, for these welcoming words. They have very well framed the key aspects of the Acceder program that we are going to present just right now. Now, after the welcoming words, we move to the presentation of the impact and result evaluation and listen to the most relevant data and conclusions directly from the researchers who have carried out the work. We have with us Luis Miguel Morales and Ángela García from Red to Red. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Ángela García, and this is my colleague Luis Miguel. We work in Red to Red. It's a consultancy firm specialized in public policies in Spain. It's a pleasure for us. We are really happy to stay here and share the results of our work, the results of this evaluation. Also, this is a challenge, and it's a great opportunity. And we are going to tell you the main results and the main success factors. Firstly, I will present you the evaluation methodology, and then my colleague will present the results, the main results of this evaluation. Well, I will change the language to start our presentation because we want to translate the message properly, okay? Bien, ahora
So I'm going to speak English now. First and foremost, we wanted to highlight the following. This evaluation is a reference because in Red to Red, we have been working on that for 20 years. It has been challenging. Why? Because we had to do it for 20 years ongoing. And in these 20 years, as Sara was mentioning, we have been counting more than 110,000 people interested in participating, and 82,000 have actually participated de facto. This has required a very well-adapted methodology for these figures. The program has a national scale. This also had an impact in the approach we wanted to tackle in order to include the whole of the territory. The assessment had two goals. On the one hand, analyzing the evidence, demonstrating the results and impacts of these 20 years, and also creating knowledge. Why? Because one program generates new learning opportunities. We used different approaches. The assessment was done by an independent team, an external organization, and it's an evaluation exposed because the results happened 20 years after the program has been started, and it's summative because the knowledge is cumulative. This evaluation has combined different approaches, so traditional evaluation criteria, gender and human rights especially, and also we have wrapped it up with an impact assessment, trying to focus on different counterfactual analysis. That has been rather, far from easy, because we had some limitations when it came to access to the information that companies could provide us. Then there are different techniques used across all stages of evaluation when it came to gathering information. We wanted to provide with scientific results, individual interviews, group interviews, surveys, documentation, analysis in depth of the databases that we have been accumulating. Huge task. Thank you very much, Angela. I'll follow suit, telling you a bit more about the main axis of the Acceder program. The approach is important, and the perspective. It tries to achieve and stimulate freelancing for Roma people in order to integrate them in the job market. There's, on the one hand, a direct intervention with Roma community, trying to analyze the needs of the populations and then develop some different roadmaps to get there. We create some activities or trainings adjusted and tailored to the community. The company interventions is another dimension of the program, very important. Not only to invite them to work with our program, but also highlighting the role of the Roma population within their companies. Participation is also linked to cross-cutting activities, because these can facilitate access to employment and fight cultural discrimination that Roma communities have been facing day in, day out in Spain traditionally. Some social organizations in the territory are going to be involved as well. Those are the main lines when it comes to interventions. And if we talk about figures, we need to highlight that 9 out of 10 people who have participated have been actually achieving these work-related practices. 40% have actually accessed de facto different trainings, and 14,000 could access intermediation. That is a program in which they are connected with private companies in order to promote their access to work. These are just some examples of all the myriad activities. We count 8,000 trainings. These are all some of the examples of the companies that have been involved in the program, a long-standing collaboration. There are many national companies and multinational as well. We want to adapt their trainings to the needs of Roma people for the job market. In order to wrap up with this image, in this cross-cutting intervention, there is one main activity related to awareness campaigns. We have gone through 25 campaigns and also studies where we wanted to deepen the knowledge of the reality and the needs of the Roma community so that this could culminate into an adapted roadmap for them. What can you see here? The main profiles that have been participating in our program. Sara was mentioning before that Acceder has an intercultural approach from the basis on, in its very core. And also it's integrated in every person that takes part in this project. Mainly is dedicated to Roma people, but we have also worked with people that are non-Roma. About 30% of those participants, they belong to different communities. But they also face complex situations that hamper and hinder their access to the job market. That's why we wanted to underline the importance of the intercultural approach. We're talking about very young people. In most cases, they have not finished the studies, and they did not have formal working experience. With this segment of populations, we could see very similar characteristics, being them Roma or not. Which was the scope and the profile regarding the results? So here we go. 1 out of 10 Roma people in Spain has participated at some stage in the program in these 20 years. Many of them were connected to the situations, to the financial situations that the country came across. And we identified in this evaluation 2 main strategies. We developed that in the first years in order to reach this amount of people. On the one hand, there is a segment of people that are younger, they are geared to change, and they are willing to change their life perspective. Some people are overrepresented, and especially at the beginning. And also, we see that people who have basic compulsory studies are there. They are overrepresented, people who have not finished the compulsory studies. So it was good to create some role models so that people who didn't have the studies could see that others had got a job anyway. That was a motivation in order to amplify the reach of the program. We're also celebrating this 20th anniversary of the program, but it has been evolving deeply in the different phases. That's the way it goes when you try to implement a national scope program. So we just analyzed the results we were achieving, and we tried every time to see how could we deal with the first recommendations that were defined. This happened in the first 4 years. After that, we were specialized. So we started with an expansion phase at the start, consolidation phase afterwards, and then the specialization phase, in which we wanted to foster freelancing in Roma population. And now what we want to do is to create bonds between the community and throughout the program in order for them to hold the key to job employment, to job access. And what we're seeing now is the innovation phase, as I was mentioning before, and we are taking as a basis a solid methodology and using it in the program to face and respond to the needs in the job market. Everything is related to specialization and regard to the needs of the Roma population, a very professional team, a holistic approach, so that you're going to be working with every single actor within the population that are going to tackle and face and fight against discrimination and stigma, and also a very balanced approach when it comes to gender equity. All of this has turned the program into an information generative tool so that we can continue our actions, and a lot of support from social institutions and officials. What we can see looking back is that the program is still alive and that it tries to cover and respond to the needs that constantly arise. This first data might trigger some questions in you. What does that represent when we are talking employment rate? So 4 out of 10 people that participate get a job. The difference, as you see, between men and women are not that big or relevant, and we have identified some differences if we added some socio-demographic factors. For example, training. We wanted to highlight the fact that contrasting both communities, Roma people and non-Roma people, the result was better. For non-Roma people, imagine even targeting the program for the Roma population, not even like that you can fully compensate the huge amount of discrimination this community are facing. So imagine if you are not having these kind of programs. So this is a question that can be triggered from these results, and how can we continue to work to bridge the gap? Also, people who had some prior professional experience was going to do better afterwards, as compared with people who had never had a job before. Some more results. The education level is key to understanding these results. And it was highlighted that in the first and second levels, which people had not completed primary education, the percentages, the difference was 14 points. So this gap between primary education and secondary education was a clear picture of the realities of the Roma community regarding employment. So there was a correlation. We can see 6 or 7 points less of unemployment when it comes to Roma population. If we do have children educated, we see a different result. So that's what motivates us to continue to stimulate education. If we talk about Roma women, the increase is 17 points when they actually finish their primary and compulsory education. Acceder is very important because it works adapting itself to the needs of the Roma population. We identified 3 main ways of working depending on the needs of everyone and the depth of the intervention. The continuity was a must. Some people are in the program for 1 year, some people are 2-3 years, and so these different pathways. The first one combines training with integration, always in contact with the companies. The first pathway represented 46% of success after 3 years of having been registered in the program. They land a job. Why? Because we were identifying specific characteristics that could land them the job. There's a slight difference with the pathway number 2 because the success rate is 33.2%. The difference has to do with the compulsory studies. When this happens, we reach almost 60% employment entry. So that is very important to take into account. Another question we asked ourselves was training. We talked orientation, now let's cover learning. So these are the main styles of training, learning by doing on the one hand. There's theory and there's practice. And the integration rate goes up to 55%. That is for us a model to follow, and it's connected with a program started in 2013 and 2014 that was identifying the needs in the market. Then, if we talk about vocational courses, we can see the following.
When it comes to vocational courses, the labor market entry rate is still very high. These courses are not general, they are completely adapted to the needs of the population and the company's needs. These courses can have 15 hours, and some courses are 120 hours long. These courses want to answer and want to fulfill the needs of the companies. That way, both sides win. Finally, we have an information side of the program. The Acceder program launched new courses related with digital skills. And these courses by themselves were not really relevant when it came to labor market entry. But if we combined these courses with previous courses, the labor market entry rates were much higher. They incremented in 6 points combined with vocational courses, and when it was combined with learning by doing, it was 14 points higher. In our opinion, these numbers are quite significant when it comes to labor market entry data. Regarding employment, well, I wanted to share new additional actions that accompanied all that was mentioned before. We were speaking about positive numbers, but of course we have to take into account that 4 in 10 jobs obtained thanks to this program was through intermediation. We tackled the needs of companies, and we focused, or this program focused on Roma women. We wanted to also highlight that the program has launched other 2 initiatives. The first one is related to a new pathway called the self-employment pathway. This wasn't planned, but it was created to answer to Roma needs. We wanted to professionalize the access to jobs, to work. And another one was this WISE pathway. We focused, or the program focused on adaptation with great qualitative importance. This is another alternative that was very successful. And I wanted to also highlight that all results that were mentioned have been aligned and even have been better than the ones that the ESF stated. We exceeded targets in all 3 periods when it came to trained people and when it came to employed people. We are speaking about a program that meets its targets every time, and all data related to labor market entry are very positive. I wanted to also mention sustainability and effectiveness. 90% of the budget has focused on direct intervention, carrying out these pathways. The 70% of the budget comes from European funds, but we also benefit from funding of national, regional, and local administrations. I wanted to highlight that the average cost of every pathway is below 2,000 euros. In Spain, there were other pathways that used to cost 6,000 euros. So these pathways are 3 times cheaper than the ones referenced in 2019-2020 in Spain. Let me go back to the impacts. We briefly mentioned these impacts, but I wanted to stop for a minute and say the following. 4 of every 10 people obtain a job, and salaried employment is a reality. It is now something that Roma people see as a reality, which gives new value to education and when it comes to access to employment. Families now value education and training, and one of the key factors is specific training. And Sara already mentioned this before, but there's an increased autonomy and self-confidence among Roma people, and specifically Roma women. These women feel free thanks to working right now. All of this give us a great result when it comes to the improvement of quality of life. We know where we are going to be in a year's time, and thanks to this, we can start planning our life in a medium, long-term vision. When it comes to the link of these impacts to the community, well, there has been a reevaluation of education and training in the community. There's more support from the family, because 10, 20 years ago, this salaried employment wasn't a reality. And right now, families highlight these new pathways as opportunities that bring changes within the family, within the support networks, specifically when it comes to Roma women. They now can have a work-life balance and they can access work, which is great. Something that is very different when it comes to the history of the community. This work has been gradual. It hasn't been an instant change. Every generation has experienced small changes, and all these changes have accumulated because everybody was seeing new things. I wanted to mention a final impact. What has been the effect of the program when it comes to the participants? When we already mentioned work, we have broken many stereotypes when it came to Roma women within the industry. And we can see this when we surveyed the companies. Many of these companies have worked with Acceder for 10, 15 years. They have been there continuously, and they have stopped falling for the trap of the stereotypes. Social organizations have changed their approach linked to personalized pathways. We now focus on what the person needs, and we collaborate with industries. We take into account that industries, companies, are key when it comes to facilitating these labor market entry plans. The aspect of society is also an important one. We have broken down the stereotypes through personal contact. Personal contact has to do with the contact within the company when people start working, but also the contact with the program when the population have contact with non-Roma people. I wanted to also mention media and education community. Right now, we see more awareness to certain narratives. Before, we used to have certain stereotypes and prejudices that are very clear right now. Another aspect would be related to public authorities. It has been key to experience the changes that were carried out during the first years. We saw that there was a problem, a structural problem, and this was made visible. This brought us to a broken down existing image, and thanks to an intervention, we saw that these people took the chance and they wanted the opportunity. We generated data, and during these 20 years of development, we have created new perspectives of public policies' focus and role to be able to tackle inequalities. Finally, I wanted to mention that Fundación Secretariado Gitano has taken this program as a pillar of the organization because they can now have a comprehensive intervention on the labor market entry. I want to go now to the general conclusions. The Acceler program is achieving its objectives. It is providing the Roma community access to salaried employment that was already looked for, but this is also generating social and institutional changes to be able to fight against the discrimination faced by Roma population. And in this sense, there are a couple of things that are key. First one, related to the holistic perspective. We are trying to adapt the pathway to everybody's needs. We are trying to understand every and each factor that facilitates or doesn't facilitate the access to employment. Working with organizations and with companies have given us the opportunity of increasing the labor market entry rates. This way of working generates a vicious circle of results. People are getting the results that they were looking for, so they continue being committed to the program. And to finish, I wanted to show the last slide that will give us the success factors. First one, focus on results. It is important to have different pathways without forgetting the importance of education. We have to take into account Roma women because they are a transformative element and they can be this disruptive element to be able to change. They will be the agents of change. And then I wanted to share with you different identity signs from the Acceler program. They have clear identity marks that have a great capacity for adaptation and innovation. This methodology is efficient and consolidated, and it has offered us long-term changes, visible changes, thanks to the effect of the European funding. What you see on the screen would be the success factors of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luis Miguel and Ángela, for your presentation. These results are those that support the impact of the work carried out in the Acceler program with the Roma people, of course. Having heard the details of the evaluation, the data, and the impact that we have managed to measure, we want to hear the voices of the people who participate in the day-to-day life of the Acceler program. and of those who make it possible with their collaboration. For this panel, we will have two different round tables. And firstly, I would like to invite Lorena Muñoz, Elizabeth Motos, Gloria Cuadrado, and Alejandra Gail. And this panel will be moderated by Belén Sánchez Rubio, Head of International Department of Fundación Secretariado Gitano. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here with us. Lots of known faces and new faces as well. It's a pleasure for us to be here to share these results with you. And I'm delighted to be here in this round table with the voices of those, as Rafa was saying, that have been directly connected to the impact and the positive results of the Acceder. We have seen that the external evaluation has shown, from an external point of view, has confirmed that the Acceder has, as a targeted intervention, specifically on Roma and focusing on salaried employment, has worked, has contributed with value. And we would not have done this job alone, and this is part of the reason why we also wanted to share and be here with our colleagues, the partners, the people, the workers that have been involved in the day-to-day life of the Acceder, of this ecosystem that the Acceder has become. So it started as a very small experience, just focusing on salaried employment, giving these opportunities, and how through the years it has enlarged its scope and has been very carefully listening to the needs of the people and to the opportunities offered by the labor market. And I think this is one of the greatest values of the Acceder. Because an NGO alone could not have reached this is for sure. Even as professional as we can be, we would have any type of employment program, needs of companies, needs of public administrations, etc. So I want to thank our partners for being here with us, but also for having been with us all this time. So it's not only about being here today, but during all these years of common work. I would like to start with the views of, I think it could not be otherwise, of the Roma participants. They are the reason why the Acceder exists, to kind of cover and give an answer, a response, a useful response to the needs of Roma. These participants that have been increasingly coming to our offices throughout Spain, and they do this on a volunteer basis. This is also an important aspect. Over 110,000 participants that have come through these years to our offices, which for us means one of the best indicators of success, because we could see it in our daily life that people were coming because their husband, because their nephew, because their son had a positive experience of the Acceder. That was the way they started coming to us. And for us, this was a clear indicator that we were doing things right. But we want to give them the floor. And here we have Lorena Muñoz. She's a Roma woman. She came to Acceder office in Zaragoza in 2009 and asking for employment. She wanted to know what the Acceder could offer her. And since then, she's been involved she had her own comprehensive individualist pathway, the ones we were talking about. And she's now working in the coordinating services of an ambulance company. And we just wanted to give her the floor, thank her for being here, because we know she has been taking days off to be here. And I think this also shows her commitment and to the program. And I would like to ask you, Lorena, so you're now working, estás trabajando, and tell us a little bit how was your experience when you started coming to the Acceder, what you were expecting, what motivated you to come and look for a job, and how was this process that you've been involved in Acceder?
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to briefly mention what Fundación Secretario Gitano has done to my life. I arrived more than 15 years ago. I was 17 years old, and I don't know how, when, and why I arrived to Fundación. I don't know if it was just by chance, and if it was the best chance, the best serendipity ever. I arrived to acceder to Fundación Secretariado Gitano, and back then I didn't know if I was. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I don't know if I was going to receive any help. I didn't have any expectations because I didn't have any training nor experience. I didn't have any will. I didn't have any reference from my family. So I was a disaster, basically, and literally. But I was a Roma woman. And before, we know that Roma women had to be housewives. They had to be people that stayed at home. We didn't have any expectations nor any future. And thanks to Acceder, I felt like education was important to be able to have more opportunity. They gave me emotional support. They gave me tools to a dignified work. They gave me the tools to be a Roma woman in the 21st century. They supported me, and they helped me to follow all and every training that was possible for me. I landed a job after 1 year, but unfortunately the project that I participated in had a final date after 1 year. But I already felt that training was the key factor for me. While I was working in this first job, we also worked with my son. I wanted to mention that when I was 14 years old, I stopped studying, and when I was 15 years old, I have my first child. Acceder not only supported me, they supported my child through the program Promociona, giving him new tools to follow education. Right now, I am telling my child that giving up education is not an option. He has the privilege, the right, and the obligation of following training to be able to have a dignified future. Once I finished compulsory studies, my son came to the Acceder program, and he started facing new challenges such as job interviews. Right now, my son is 19 years old and he's working. And in September, he will start his second year at university because he stopped working for a while. He stopped studying for a while. But as I said, stopping studying is not an option. So I'm here to bring him back to university. I know that my son will be able to tell me, I am working in what I love to do. As I am saying now, I'm working in the health sector. I'm working in the ambulance center of Zaragoza. And right now, I can say that I love what I do. I love working, and that I will continue following trainings every time that I can. Fundación Secretario Gitano has changed my life, and I am one of many people that have benefited from this.
Muchísimas gracias, Lorena.
Thank you very much, Lorena. you bring us just a small drop of information. I will come back to you with another question afterwards. Sorry. Sorry.
The floor to the Acceder professionals, that sometimes we forget about them. So we talk about participants, companies, but we don't deal with the professionals that actually make the Acceder, that implement the methodology on the ground. As it was said before, they make the teams that are composed by Roma and non-Roma working together from different perspectives, multi-sectoral perspectives, and that they are really the pillar of the success of the Acceder program. We have Elizabeth Motos here with us. We know each other for a long time. She has a long experience in the Acceder. She was there from the very beginning in the year 2000, and she started as a participant, actually, of the Acceder program in the pilot experience in '97. And then little by little, and getting trained and with a lot of motivation, she started as an intercultural mediator in the year 2000, and since then she has been doing lots of other things internally, and she has moved and become a counselor, labor counselor in the Acceder team, now in the north of Spain, but she was also in the employment department, so in charge of coordinating projects, and in 2007 she received the International Amazing Woman Award from the Orange Foundation in Spain. So that's Elizabeth here. I'm sure you can understand that she has a lot of things to share with us. So the floor is yours. Ya te he hecho la presentación. Perdona, no. Entonces, la pregunta, ya te he hecho la presentación. So my question to you would be, this experience, from the point of view of your experience in the program and having been in different positions of the Acceder and as a Roma person, why do you think the Acceder program works with Roma population? So what is the success of the Acceder program?
Buenas tardes a todos también. Bueno, pues el programa Acceder desde el principio.
From the very beginning, Acceder achieved the integration of a number of key factors. Firstly, innovation, because back in 2000 it launched customized pathways for job search, specifically for the Roma population. And there were trainings developed as well as traineeships within companies. The teams are intercultural, and in every team, as our colleague was mentioning before, there's a prospector, organizer, and mediator. And you can see Roma professionals that are working. Everyone is coordinated, and they share the same approach. And the nicest and most important thing for me is the closeness, because Roma people could be there and felt listened, felt understood. They didn't have to give any explanations. They were not judged by anyone. And that way, they could also have different role models, people from their own from their own community that were working, that had a different lifestyle. And at the beginning, the Roma community was working as freelancer in the informal market without any education, compulsory education. So the expectations were rather low. And also there was a lack of role models in that sense. Within these 20 years, we have seen a major change because Roma population has accessed the job market. They have accessed education. They continue with the training. It was very difficult for the Roma population to come closer to the program and to get involved in the program because they did not see the potential of training. They did not give it any value. And they didn't want to do anything unless they got some money in return. Because back then, every training was with a subsidy, with a grant. So something very specific and special of the program was the very particular and customized way of accompanying every individual and in their very situation. We knew that we had to broadcast the program. We needed to disseminate the information. And we were also around the communities explaining what we did. We just stuck posters around. Nowadays, this is not needed anymore because people know us. Some people actually come to us requesting this participation. And this is why they know someone firsthand who succeeded through the program. It was very difficult also for us to change the mindset and understand that working was better than getting benefits. And that change of mindset was very hard. And also they had to break down their very own mental barrier because they thought, I am Roma, no one's going to want me, I'm going to be discriminated against. So the role models were key because other people saw the success and the good experiences, and that was inspiring. The same kind of work and awareness raising happened within the companies. Companies did not know anything about the Roma population. And so we did go through a very thorough work of bonding. Every time that there was a success, we celebrated it because it was proof that this was possible. And it increased the possibilities for the Roma population to go beyond the sales, informal sales sector. So all this work was very necessary, and it reaped the benefits that we've seen within 20 years. It has had a great impact in the Roma population's life, and we have a long way to go, but we have achieved a lot. And we see a difference because there has been a generational strife. These youngsters, these youth, request things because the parents opened the way for them. Yes, you've been mentioning some of the impacts that you have been stating throughout the 20 years. What would you highlight? And how did this affect the community, especially women? So expectations have been massively changed. Before, people didn't want to study or work. And nowadays, from one generation to the next, we just have seen the following. I'm telling you, just like I also dropped school at 15, but then I was also the first one in my family to reach university. And there has been a massive generational change, evolution. We have a colleague in Asturias who studied gynecology, but her parents cannot read. And this is beautiful to see the parents, to see their sons and daughters thriving. And we have achieved a lot, but a lot more still remains to be done. Roma women are at a disadvantage because they belong to this community. She's a woman in a very patriarchal society within a discriminated community, but despite these hindrances, we have seen the transformation, we have seen the evolution, and the foundation has always understood this angle, and we have always been working for them to participate, to allow them to be part and to have access to work. So the work-life balance was a very important element we took into account. the awareness in their families to know what this meant if she was learning and working. And so women have been trailblazers. And now we just see change happening. Trainings are very specific and customized for them. We were, for example, trainings on the clean sector, but we also opened up the field to companies and with a different schedule, so that would allow them for a work-family balance. And they also later on tried to do the same for their daughters. These women who were trained did their job and did it well. Thank you very much.
Okay, so and now we move into the view of the companies. You know, it has been said that an employment program, the work with cooperation with companies in any employment program is a must. There's no way any NGO or public authority wanting to push for an employment program for Roma or for any other group does this type of initiatives without taking into consideration the companies. And this was very, very clear from the very beginning. And I have to say that at the beginning was not easy. Now we will tell the stories, success stories, but at the beginning, and also as Elizabeth was saying, we had a lot of companies closing the door when we knocked on their door, and they didn't open it for our Roma participants, but others did. And we have over 15,000 companies that actually cooperate with us, and I think this is the result of a very, so we managed to create a very solid partnership based on trust and confidence. And here we have two examples of this type of cooperation, a very different type of cooperation, but they actually represent companies, large, medium, and small, because we deal with all of them. So not only with big companies as the ones that are here, but also with a small grocery shop or shoe shop or that are in the neighborhoods. They are also involved in this project, and they should be also acknowledged. It very importantly has been, as the data was provided before, that when they open up the door for the first labor experiences of many young Roma, because this actually, as the data was explaining, that this increased almost to 20% percentual points the employment rate of these youngsters. So clearly the cooperation with companies for the youngest Roma has been essential, and also for Roma women, as the data also was saying, the role that companies in this intermediation actually provided with. I have the pleasure really to present here Carrefour. Carrefour is one of the companies that has been collaborating with us from the very beginning of the project. They have contributed to different vocational training actions throughout this year. They have been jointly implementing training actions with us in the Learning by Doing that was mentioned before, in some other digital content trainings, among others. And in the last 5 years, Carrefour actually has become the company with the largest number of new recruitments under the Acceder program. And during this year, so over 1,200 Acceder participants have been involved and mentored by Carrefour staff in over 30 cities across Spain. And I have to say what is very important here is that it's been in a variety of occupations, so from cashiers to fresh product desk to logistic assistants, etc., and accounting for more than 600 people being hired in these last years. So I'm very happy to present Gloria Cuadrado. She's the Director of Talent and Human Resources Transformation in Carrefour Spain. She works in Carrefour since 2000, and since then she's been committed to training and professional and personal development as a key to sustainable and responsible growth within the organization, within the company. And she is in charge of promoting agreement with social entities with the aim of favoring inclusion of vulnerable groups. and for including diversity perception within the teams of Carrefour. So, Gloria, my question to you, what has the cooperation with Carrefour and Acceler been like from the perspective of Carrefour? What has it been like? And what is the value of such cooperation in your view?
Bueno, Belén, ¿me vas a permitir?
Thank you very much. Before starting, allow me please to give the responsibility to Lorena, because that trade model you created has been showing leadership, and you are also very integrated in your function. So I know you're not going to change posts, but we're not going to give up. We've been working a lot in order to foster professional and personal development of women. We talk about role models and trailblazers and superwomen. So now we know who we're going to invite for the next event. Thank you very much for the invite then. Thanks to every company that has been counting on Carrefour for sharing the experience and success of the last 20 years for me. I just have gratitude for you. And it has been fantastic. And we have increased visibility. In Spain, Carrefour is one of the biggest employers, 55,000 collaborators, and it's growing and expanding yearly. And this results in many job opportunities. This brings us closer to some social entities. We really pick and choose them because we like that they have a very specific training program, quality. We integrated many people in the company lately, and working alongside these kind of entities who are demanding make these programs successful. It is not only about how to say, we don't need to focus on general things, on collectives, we need to focus on individuals. The traineeship is great. It allows us to teach, to form and train, and the colleagues, once they have finished with their being mentors, they come to us and say, please, you should actually hire them. And this is for us the best we could hear. I don't want to just drop more figures in the mix, but the 56% of the new people hired are women. And Raquel was telling me about a very high ratio of rotation. 43% of the people who work with us that belong to your program have been staying there for more than 3 years. It's not only that integration works, it's that it provides us with stability. And what to say about the results? 25% of these people have a better result than the average. I wanted to ask you the following. What happens with human resources? The door is open, but once hired, maybe the hired person faces difficulty with the colleagues' prejudices or biases. How did you work with that? Yes, of course, these stereotypes and prejudices exist, but most of them are not conscious. So that's why we just tackle training in different programs where we raise awareness. around different factors of discrimination. This is a long-standing work. But on the ground, that is the very important task. The fact that we are successful makes that Fundación Secretariado Gitano becomes a recruiting agency, so to say, and we rely on them. I need to say that your network, prospector, mediator, a very subtle and important difference. You see how professional that is. And that helps us a lot. And for us, this is a guarantee because we trust your entity, because you're working with cross-cutting elements and factors, because you target the needs of the community, because you offer customized training. You provide with customer care. For us, it's very important that our personnel have finished their compulsory education. So I know now that you are focusing on this. And so you're going to work on that. And you provide us with a guarantee. And I think this task has such a value that cannot be measured. And how could you define the bond between Carrefour, and an entity like ours, like the Secretariado? Yes, it has been a long-standing bond. And I'd like to highlight your rigor, the very commitment you show, and the commitment that you provide with the people that are looking for a job. You're also very good choosing the companies because you're tackling those companies that are at the forefront when it comes to technology. The only thing I can tell you is go on this path.
And as Gloria said, with a different type of cooperation, not fully, but partly is a different cooperation. This cooperation started in 2012 through the initiative Together for the Employment of the Most Vulnerable, which facilitated innovative elements and tools to the Acceder methodology. This cooperation has certainly meant a step forward for our program in the way Acceder had conceived guidance and skills-based training. And also recently, it has also started a new cooperation path, which is the inclusion of Roma people in the technology sector. Training and hiring Acceder, this is what Acceder Foundation has done. They have trained Roma participants in the technology sector and managed to hire some of them as software programs, which is very important aspect. Maybe in quantitative terms it's not that big, but in qualitative terms it's essential because it opens up a new world of expectations and opportunities for Roma where they previously could not see themselves working at, and Accenture actually opened up this new world for them and for the Acceder program also to keep on looking for opportunities, labor opportunities in this sector that we could not think of either. So the cooperation with Acceder has brought a lot of value for Acceder as well to develop the program in itself. Alejandra Gail is director of the consultancy activity Iberia of Accenture Foundation in Spain. She joined Accenture in '91. And as program and developer, and developed her professional career in the technology area, working for clients in different sectors and different roles. And in 2008, she was given the opportunity to move to Accenture Foundation and be in charge of the pro bono consultancy area, where she began to get to know the sector and lead the consulting projects carried out, such as the one that cooperates with us. So my question to you, Sandra, would be, how does one of the biggest companies in the technology sector in Spain and Europe, in the world, decide to cooperate with NGOs dealing with the employment of disadvantaged groups, such as the Roma in our case. How did it happen?
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for the invite. It's a pleasure for me being here today talking about this in this anniversary. Happy birthday! It is easy and difficult. This is a very easy question, but you cannot answer it in 4 minutes. Why? Because Accenture has promoted the work in this sector. And of course, I want to tell you that 10 solid years that we have been working with the Secretariado Gitano. Accenture was born 10 years ago, and they wanted to help those who help, providing with this assessment company and transforming all that information into social projects. Back in 2010, as a result of the global financial crisis, our activity fostered an improvement of economy and the reality of many people. There was an initiative, Together for Employment. We could not work on our own. We needed that this initiative reached the maximum people possible. And we needed to collaborate. We wanted to include private sector, public sector, civil society, and that's when we met Fundación Secretariado Gitano. It was a great surprise, and from that moment on, we started our collaboration, and there we go, we're still on it. We wanted to improve the job access to these people. We assessed the needs, we assessed the situation, also the skills. We created a dictionary, a skill dictionary, and we created many platforms and apps that professionals could use in order to assess people's skills. And this would allow them to create the roadmap, a customized roadmap for each individual. Its purpose was to identify some behaviors that might not be mature enough in order to improve them. We created a platform, an online platform with great learning content. So afterwards, these online courses went on site. We count on more than 100 tools, both online and on site. And digitization came through. And in this profile, in this transformative job market, things changed. And the digital knowledge became key, and some people were left behind, which moved us to create a package of digital knowledge. That was the very first package. We were the first organization in order to launch and deploy this tool that went through a diagnose and then developed the content, because they are brave as anything. And just right after, we started with digital knowledge. That was part of it. And it was a great deployment of tools. All these digital contents were generated, and Secretariado has always been there supporting us. Because we do support, but the ones with the expertise are Secretariado. They are the ones dealing directly with people. and we complement each other. That's why we were capable of creating this package, in order for people to understand how do digital devices work and how can they use them. How can they register? How can do tasks online that used to be done on site before? Some of the tools allow you an assessment. And at this stage, we are facing a new challenge. Technology is invading us. It's just flooding every sector. And we need to fight in order to make technology inclusive and help people even though they are not qualified. We think that providing them with the right set of skills and training, they can change the situation. We were tackling the youngsters. We were forming on cybersecurity, skills, trainings, also to adults who had zero knowledge of digital aspects and had to start from scratch. These trainings are for everyone. There is a problem because people who without a degree sometimes think that this is not for them. But we do believe that with the right training, that shouldn't matter. Because this training is going to help them decide if this is their field or not. And we can open up new fields that respond to these profiles. We kick-started it, and we've been accompanying the process. And we've been launching many initiatives in this sector. And there are many different sections. Nazaret came to a company. We didn't even know what was going to happen, and it has been a resounding success. We continue reinforcing this path. We are creating this Fundaula, a learning platform. It is open and free for everyone because all this knowledge needs to be open to people to provide possibilities to whomever might need them. Our challenge is to continue to work, and we're going to reach Carrefour. We want to reach to the levels of Carrefour. Thank you very much.
Bueno, y ahora os pediremos que os bajéis y suban.
I would like to ask the round table to change. I am going to welcome our funding agents. She can stay.
Gracias. So the other pillar of the Acceder program has to do with funding. So Acceder would not be possible if it hadn't had the optimal funding conditions to do so, to be implemented at national level with this long-term perspective, non-stop. So we didn't stop for 20 years. Our over 70 offices across Spain, and this is very much thanks to the ESF, the Spanish ESF, that has been renovating the Acceder for 3 programming periods on a row. We believe this is quite a milestone in itself, quite unique experience. And also it showed a lot of innovation in launching because it was a national program. So ESF for Roma, ESF at national level, and for 20 years. I mean, this is, and run by an NGO. This is completely something unique, we would say, sadly unique, but it's behind the success of the program for sure. we have the pleasure to have Ángel García Frontelo. He's the Deputy Director of the Spanish ESF Managing Authority, so the body responsible for managing the ESF in Spain at the Ministry of Employment and Social Economy. And I have to say, and I cannot avoid this, he's responsible not only for these things, but he's responsible for having this innovative vision in Spain. He's the one. And he's the one also for making it possible. So not only to having the vision, but to implement the vision. So I really want to thank Ángel for Fundación Secretariado Gitano. Would like to thank very much Ángel Frontelo for this. And my question to you, Ángel, would be in the light of the data that we saw from the impact evaluation, what is your assessment of this data? And what do you think, what analysis do you make of what the role of the ESF has to do with achieving such good and positive results?
Well, thank you for your presentation, Belén. You have lied about me being responsible for the innovation. It's a teamwork as usual, but thank you a lot for that. Well, happy birthday to Acceder, 20 years already. I saw it when he was born, and I'm very satisfied to see it now that it's a grown-up. The only bad part is that we are 20 years older now, and that's not as good. Why has Acceder been a success? Well, I will say 3 key factors, maybe 4, 3. One of them is that we established a very close cooperation, a partnership, or even more an alliance between those organizations that are closer to the people, that are working on the field, and the ESF public institutions that provides for the financial, it's true, we're financiers, but also for the institutional support and also for the management support that you need. So that alliance, I think, is the first factor of success of this Acceder program. The second one, I would say, is the right methodology, is the adequate methodology. We have been talking about individualized, personalized pathways, and also very important, the intermediation and the support of companies. Without that, those data that we have seen would be impossible. And finally, a double belief, I would say. The belief, and this goes along with what the commissioner said, that there is no fatality, there is the fate of Roma people, the fate of vulnerable people is not being as poor as their parents have been. We cannot accept that, that's unacceptable. There has to be a hope, there has to be a belief that they can change their lives, that they can live better when the private generation have lived. And then the belief, this is most economical, if you let me say so, that the investment in people is cost effective. For every euro we invest in people, I'm talking of investment, not expense, the return for society is much higher than we have invested. The return as far as savings for social benefits, as far as talent that is incorporated into society, and as far as the contribution that those people that have had the right insertion are providing for society also. So I would talk about those 3 success factors why ESF has contributed.
And in this sense, what do you think is the role of the ESF then? What are the elements that the ESF can contribute with to achieving such an impact in terms of when dealing with disadvantaged groups in their access to employment? What is the power of the ESF in this regard?
Every question is more difficult than the one before. Well, I shouldn't say, but we have it all. I mean, every ingredient that you need to be successful, ESF Plus have it. We have a political framework where we have to align policy with practice. We have political framework. Patricia Bezunartea has been involved in designing the National Plan for Roma. And that aligns us with policy. And the Commission itself, we have the representatives, have made sure that we align our activity, our actions with the policy the European Pillar of Social Rights needs. And that's something we have to recognize the Commission, that to align policies with practice. Second, we have the means, the financial means, the support, the financial support is very important from the European Social Fund. We have the policy, we have the financial, and then we also have, what I said before, the belief and the commitment of everyone that ESF Plus is a powerful instrument, a powerful tool to change things, always in cooperation with the third sector.
Okay. Thank you very much, Angel.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we know that investing on equal opportunities in the access to the labor market is one of the pillars of the national Roma strategies across the EU, and this is the case of the Spanish national strategy. It was already in the one drafted in 2011 and is now one of the pillars of the new strategy up to 2030. We have the pleasure to have Patricia Bezuna Artea, Director General of Family, Diversity and Social Services from the Spanish Ministry of Social Rights and 2030 Agenda, and she's, of course, the head of the Spanish National Roma Contact Point. And also the ministry has also supported Acceder by co-funding the program for many years and for being very supported in other aspects, of course. My question to you, Patricia, would be, as the responsible person for of the National Contact Point and of the Spanish national strategy, what is your assessment of the results that we heard before and impacts of the Acceder program? What do they say to you as responsible for the national strategy?
Good afternoon to everybody. Thanks to Fundación Secretariado Gitano for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here today, and congratulations on the results that are evident in this evaluation. And thank you also for your generosity to show the results, your methodology, your success, so you make it available to those who can learn from it. Well, happy birthday. I have to say that I was in the moment that the baby came to life, and it's 20 years later. It's also my pleasure to be here and to show how the baby has grown up and is full of health and future. There are so many things that have been said that there is hardly anything original left to add. But from the point of view of the Ministry of Social Rights, of the National Roma Contact Point, I think there is very interesting aspects that the Acceder program has that has to be highlighted at this moment. I would say that it's a successful program, and this is very important. It's not only because of the impact on the quality of life of Roma people, but also because it shows the society that it's possible. It's what Angel said before. That Roma population can undertake successful social labor itineraries with the right support, show the society that it's possible and that it is fair, and we have to do it. It's not an option. I think it brings innovation in the way of tackling complex issues as this one. You propose a methodology which contrasts with practice and contrasts with results, which is very, very important. It has a comprehensive approach. You have training, active job search, sufficient time and support, which is very important, and what we have to thank to the European Commission and to the national management authorities, that the programs has enough time to be successful, and also that take into account other aspects apart from employability that need to be addressed. Also, it's not only a focus. The main focus is on employment, but there are many other things that should be addressed in order also to be success. It's effective, efficient. It provides evidence that enable appropriate decisions to be taken in favor of the transferability of results. It's flexible and personalized. This is very important aspect. It takes into account the single needs of every person who knocks the door of Acceder. And I think these are all fundamental ingredients of the approach that, in my view, social investment should have in the present and in the future. So you have been pioneers in the development of methodologies that are currently becoming generalized with other groups, other vulnerable groups. The focus on transformation, the ambition to transform the society, the multi-stakeholder approach, and we have, and the recent past has shown us that social issues are complex, and the results and the solutions are complex too. So nobody by himself or herself could solve everything. So we need to involve different agents. In this case, the Roma population itself, companies, citizens, public administration, public bodies, other social agents. the human rights and anti-discrimination approach, and this is other aspects of how important is to be successful, because we are showing that, that there is no place for discrimination, that things are possible. And also this intersectional and gender perspective, I found it very, very interesting too. So I think all these are ingredients that have taken part of the Acceder process, and they're very relevant from our point of view.
Thank you. And what is your value of the added value that the ESF can contribute with in the implementation of the national strategy, and in particularly on the focus on the pillar of employment? Mm-hmm. How do you see the ESF in this regard?
Well, I think the ESF is a key, not only for monetary aspects, but also with that, but it gives long-term investment, sustained impact, stability, continuity. I think this is a very important aspect, because in some way we only have short-term implementation of projects, and this long-term perspective is very, very interesting. The way that ESF gives to participation, the involvement of different actors around a certain policy is very important too. I think ESF promotes innovation and transferability of successful models, and this is also a very interesting aspect. And also is a lever of transformation in member states. I think in this case, European Commission has always played a role of promoting and pressing in some way the national bodies, national authorities to do best things and more things related to inclusion. So I think, as we have seen in your the presentation of the results, we need, in order to promote real impact activities and programs, we need this permanent, stable, and support with this view on transformation, and also in promoting equality between different parts of society, and with more focus on vulnerable groups, as is the case of Roma.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, Patricia. We had foreseen another speaker, but unfortunately he got ill when he was entering the plane. So he was Marc Simon, he's the deputy director from the Fundación La Caixa, who is the most relevant financial banking foundation in Spain. And actually we wanted to invite him because he represents also the part of the co-funding that the Acceder program has at national level, and has been crucial to count with the private funding for the implementation of the Acceder program, but unfortunately he could not come. But we just want to thank them for their support all these years, and maybe some other time you will hear their views on the Acceder some other time. And just to close, that's why we wanted Lorena to stay. We wanted to come back to the voice of the participants of the Acceder program, and just with a final answer, to have a final reflection or a comment on what she thinks that the Roma actually need in relation to employment. What do the Roma need from all of us, from NGOs, from public authorities, from companies? What should we keep on doing, and what else should we do to keep on supporting their equal access to the labor market? So, Lorena, gracias.
Bueno, partiendo. Well, this is a long-dated problem. So we cannot create short-term programs that are there to solve the problem. We need to accompany families on the long term. The Roma community is in every corner of the world. So this isn't a Spanish problem, a Spanish issue. We are everywhere. So we need the help of everybody, because these people all around the world are part of the problem. we need committed people, people that have an emotional involvement. I was rather surprised with the comments that Commissioner Schmidt mentioned. He was very involved, and he could have very easily looked around or to the other side to ignore our community, but he hasn't done that. And that is the way to act. We need to have people that bet on us, that give us time, give us opportunities. Because we have a lot to give, but we need opportunities. Every family, every person is a whole world. We all have different problems. So we need that people trust in us and that they invest in us.
Nothing to add. So we'll... Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the speakers. As we anticipated, it has been very enriching to hear all the points of view of those who participate and make the Acceder program work possible today. Now we come to the end of our event. For the closing remarks, I would like, or we are happy to count with Maria Iglesias as Director Acting for Working Condition and Social Dialogue, Head of Unit for ESF for Spain and Malta at the Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion of European Commission, Shabol Smith, Head of Unit of Non-Discrimination, Anti-Racism and Roma Coordination at DG Justice and Consumer of European Commission, and finally, Isidro Rodriguez, Director General of Fundación Secretariado Gitano. Please come here.
Well, thank you very much for inviting the European Commission, DG Employment, to this important event, to this birthday party. So on our last year, I was also very pleased to attend the presentation of the first presentation of the results. But it was only virtual, it was online. So this year I have the pleasure to be with you in person. As usual for the last speakers, we have the good and bad situations because most of the thing has been already said. But still, I like to underline some of the keywords that I hear today here. And then I think they are very relevant and very clear in sending the message of what Acceder has been. Has been a transformator, has been an inspirational program, has been an integrator program. It has been a very professional program. Has been an efficient program, personalized, sustainable on time because of the continuity. And all these words, I think they can define very, very well what is Acceder and why its importance. So from the ESF teams, we welcome very much the impact that has been presented today. And we know very well the importance of these 20 years, and we saw as well from the ESF also growing ACCEDER, and we also saw how they become a referent in the sector, a reference in the ESF for its efficient and result-oriented actions. We say continuity, and of course this sexual program needs always continuity. And this has been also thanks to the uninterrupted funding from the European Social Fund and the co-financing from many public administrations and private entities. This has helped, as we saw, to increase employment contracts and to the Roma community. We also mentioned that it was an innovator program. We heard this many times today. Certainly, ACCEDER has proposed a pioneer approach when working with Roma community, combining tailored specific measures with more general measures. And this has been thanks to several things. The first, on personalized measures, these itineraries, for instance, complementing training and school drop preventive measures. This combination has been really a turning point in the integration of socio-laboral situation addressed to the Roma in Spain. We also, as I mentioned, personalized itineraries. I want also to mention these important pathways that they are developing for labor market inclusion, collaborating very close with work integration social enterprises, what we saw in the presentation, in the first presentations of the results, the WISE enterprises. Although has not many people here, so no more than 300 people, it was also mentioned the quality of the results were very important, and we really appreciate this due to this 300 situation of greater vulnerability that obtain protected employment. So for us, this is another innovation factor. But also the training activities in this context focused on the program that we also saw, learning by doing and training with a guarantee. We appreciate very much the fact that they are developing digital skills. You know that for the European Commission, the developing of digital skills, well, skills in general, but digital and in particular for young people is extremely important, facing the challenge we have for digital transitions and green economy. So we are delighted to see that the ACCEDER program is collaborating also on that. But also the fact that ACCEDER is collaborating to improve the compulsory education to young people and helping with that to reduce the early school dropout for us is an important thing. Then we also mentioned the word efficiency during the presentation. We heard that. And of course, these 20 years, the results are very positive. More than 82,000 people participating. We heard 50,000 companies involved, 91,000 labor contracts signed. So all of this shows, of course, the efficiency of the program. We mentioned inspirational. Inspirational, when we talk about inspiration, we immediately think about transferability, to scale up. And this is what we are really pushing here today, is the fact that this experience can be scaled up, can be adapted to other situations. Of course, other member states can get inspiration, can adapt to their own situation, problematic or context. We know that there are some conversation ongoing with Portugal and Greece, and from the Commission, from DG Employment, from our team, nothing but support this idea of transferability. Another key word we heard today was changing. The ACCEDER has been a changing factor. It's not the only action on Roma community, but it's one of the big actions that has pushed the Spanish administration to develop the national strategy for social inclusion and the Roma population in Spain. And here Patricia is one of the big factotums on that, and we welcome very much, as we say many times, because you know that at European level we developed as well the European National Roma Strategic Framework, and we push and we work for this implementation in every member state. And then, of course, because Spain has complemented this strategy with the use of the European Social Fund Plus this time. And here we welcome very much as well the support of Ángel and all the WAFSE team, but also the Spanish autonomous communities in the design of the new plans for that, on the new projects. We also liked the fact that there are as well many regional strategies, and in particular 8 of the regions in Spain that they already adopted a strategy on Roma. They already developed, most of them, 7 of them, programs using the European Social Fund. 31 million of euros is going to be dedicated in these 7 regions for investment on that. And when we talk about investment, ESF, we saw this afternoon here that investment means transforming lives, impacting good quality of life. And then we are extremely satisfied on that. We also mentioned the word integrator. And ACCEDER has put a lot of emphasis in the actors. So partnership is a word, it's an important word in this program because comprises not only the public administration, but also foundations, as we saw here, companies, non-profit organizations, and this is, of course, giving results and delivering on the beneficiaries, and this is what we really appreciate. And in particular, we appreciate very much all what has been said here today in relation with the skills, because as the Commissioner Smith mentioned, this is the year of European Year of Skills, and we want that skills is an issue for everybody, Roma, non-Roma, whatever, is for all the citizens. We, from the European Commission, want every citizen having access to improve and to increase their skills. So satisfaction is the word for the European Commission. We saw the joint efforts with the regional communities, with autonomous regions, with private and public companies, and also with the European Commission. So nothing but continue to support you, to wish you that you help us to reduce the number of people living in poverty in Europe. You support us and we support you on fighting against discrimination and incorporating people, in particular Roma community, into the labor market at all the levels, not only on the low part of the labor market. So we are very satisfied, we are proud, and we expect much more for the next 20 years. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Buenos tardes. I am Szabolcs Schmidt. I'm the head of unit responsible for non-discrimination. So first of all, many thanks for also inviting my services to this conference, to this birthday party of ACCEDER. I'm very pleased of what I have witnessed and heard in such a privileged and condensed manner about the ACCEDER program. I just had some information about this program in an indirect manner, but what I have witnessed today, what I have heard from the evaluation is really most impressive. And all that is very timely for us, because we are just at the edge to start a new decade. So we are thinking in long term, and we really would like to be in a situation that when we are at the end of 2030 and looking back to the situation of Roma in the European Union, we are not confronted anymore with this terrible statistical data that we can still see in the European Union. Commissioner Schmidt actually mentioned that we started back in 2011 with the first Roma national strategic framework for national Roma integration strategies at European level. It was very important because it set some structures. National Roma contact points were set up, it was the first time that the European Union developed a dedicated policy for a minority. It was also, in a way, grace to that framework that in the subsequent funding period we had for the first time a dedicated funding possibility for Roma integration measures under the ESF and also under the ERDF. However, if we look at the results for the people on the grounds, we can not be satisfied at all. Just remember that 80% of the Romani people in the European Union are living in poverty. 80%. 4 out of 5 is living under the poverty threshold in average from the European Union. So that's why we embarked on a new program. And this new program is really very much about the paradigm shift. We do not want to continue to focus exclusively on socio-economic inclusion, but we want to have equally also the non-discrimination, the equality aspect, the fight against anti-Gypsyism, and also the participation of Romani people in the whole processes when it comes to the defining of policies, the design of measures, and the monitoring of the implementation. It's extremely important that all that is done together. So from this perspective, it was extremely interesting to listen and to hear to Acceder, because in a way you were running ahead of time. You started with all these ideas already 20 years ago. And I'm really very much impressed also if I look at this aspect of digital skills. I noted that already back in 2015, so long before COVID came, you were already looking in the importance of digital skills. And what is also, from the European perspective, extremely beneficial is that you are sharing all this experience. Through this EU RomaNet, you are really open to all the other member states to look into what you are doing, to learn, and also to take benefit from that. So I can only, Madam President, dear Sara, congratulate you and all your colleagues in the Fundación Secretariado Gitano for all the work, for all this impressive work that you have done, which is not only important to those 80,000 persons who benefited from this, but also because it really shows an example at European level that is badly needed. It also shows an example on how to cooperate with public authorities. This is one of the important keys to success, to find the door to people like Angel Garcia, like Patricia, who can help you and who can work together with you in implementing this project. It's also important for us to see how these available funds can be used in a meaningful and sustainable manner. We have now earmarked altogether around 2.2 billion euros, but they need to be spent in a way that it is meaningful and lasting. And I think from that perspective, Acceder is indeed not the past. It is certainly something that we will have to look into although in the weeks and months and years to come and draw upon this experience. From our perspective, and with that I'm coming to the end, I can just reiterate how important it is to have also concrete targets and indicators. And if we only look into the areas of employment and education, then I can just reiterate how important it is to look again into the EU strategic framework on Roma equality, inclusion and participation, and there you find very concrete targets. And just to name a few, upper secondary education. We need to achieve that at least the majority of young Romani people do have the upper secondary education, at least. Today, we are at around 20%. So this is a concrete target that we have to achieve. We have to achieve that the employment gap between men and women is narrowing down. We have to achieve that the need, which is extremely high, 60% of the young Roma aged between 16 and 25 are neither in employment nor in education. We have to at least cut it by half, at least, if not more. So these are concrete targets, and I think with the help of programs like yours, we can achieve that. You have the full support not only of the European Commission services, but also the member states are fully committed. You know there is a recommendation of the Council which has been adopted unanimously. So each and every member state has committed to implement concrete measures to change the situation. What I can, as a final word, only say is that the Commission has carefully analyzed all the national Roma inclusion, equality and participation strategies. We have issued at the very beginning of this year a report with concrete findings for each and every member state. We are committed to follow up on them, to keep the dialogue with the member states, with our national Roma contact points, how to improve what needs to improve, but we need also you, civil society, to also work together on that. I wish you all good success, and thank you very much for having me here as well.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today, celebrating. We are almost wrapping up this session for the Fundación Secretariado Gitano. This has been a very important day. We want to thank the Commissioner and his team and everyone here today. We want to thank the people that have been representing Acceder, public institutions, private sector, our participants and our colleagues, the professionals that are there in the Fundación. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge on the program. It is a very happy day, and it was very important and symbolic to celebrate it in Brussels. For us, it's really meaningful. This is exactly the place where we presented the results after 20 years after we pioneered the model in Madrid. We are in Europe, and Acceder, it is the result of the European Social Fund. The Roma community is the main minority in the European Union, so this was the perfect place to discuss this topic. I was moved to hear the Commissioner, our President Lorena. I was moved because you see that behind the program is commitment. Roma community continues to be the biggest, the most discriminated against community in Europe in a very particular way. Inequality is pervasive. Every indicator goes up to 80%, regardless of the country, regardless of the indicator. So it's really deep. And it just actually goes straight to the heart of those very core rights. education, healthcare, employment, and also human rights, discrimination, unequal treatment, and racism. This inequality reaches an intensity hard to compare. If you compare what the Roma population is suffering and going through and the rest of the average population, we see a gap difficult to bridge. Regardless, if you talk employment, education, no matter what, this is what could actually make us discouraged. We could find it discouraging, but the main conclusion, and I want to underline this and stress it, this program has contributed to real institutional and social changes that are fostering an environment that are changing the structural conditions for discrimination, and this is paramount. We need to keep this in mind. Why? As many people have already mentioned, in fact, the change is possible, social inclusion is possible. All these issues are the elements I wanted to stress after 20 years of Acceder. On the one hand, Acceder is a contribution that is resulting from the European Social Fund in Spain. There are many important and good things in Acceder, but it wouldn't have been possible without the European Social Fund in our country. Every country has access to this social fund, but our country had the vision to grasp that if you want to create an impact with people who are excluded, you really need to design programs that are totally customized to those communities you want to target. So the European Social Fund allows what other instruments do not. You can work, as Lorena was mentioned, you can work on changes that take 20, 30, or 40 years' time to materialize. You can actually focus on the long term, and you can provide with continuity and sustainability to these actions. And this is the pure result of the European Social Fund. Ambition in projects is paramount, and also the replication of those projects. Something that can be done in a territory, but then you can also escalate that. This is important if you want to make structural changes. That's why the fund allows for the sufficient funding. Acceder is 20 years. Acceder is more than just good practice. At the beginning, we talked about it this way. We said, okay, this is a program, this is good practice, but not, actually not. 20 years later, we see that it has been a social lab. With the Fundación Secretariado Gitano, many other entities that work with excluded groups, Caritas, Cruz Roja Española, ONCE, for these 2 decades, they have proved that working with the right conditions, social inclusion becomes possible. If you have access to the resources, if you have a robust methodology and political will, poverty, social exclusion, and discrimination can be tackled, and you can change things. This is the idea that I'd like to be the final word for this session. Today we have here people from 15 different countries and from the Roma community. And this is why our foundation was created. We wanted to use the money in an efficient manner for the benefit of the Roma community. And that's why it's so very important to share these conclusions of a work that has lasted for 20 years. MEPs are here. Many other organizations are here today. and have contributed to that. Europe today, especially Roma community people, have developed a very important strategy. The second strategic period, we do have a political frame, and we do have an economic frame, very powerful, the European Social Fund. Plus, we do know now that there are different ways of doing that have proved their efficiency. That's why I was talking about a social lab. And it is our moral responsibility and duty and our political duty in order to launch, without further ado, these actions in order to celebrate in 10 or 20 years more that most of the European Union countries count with initiatives that are related to employment, education, and change, and continue to transform the reality of Roma population. This is what we are celebrating today in our 20th anniversary. This anniversary is for everyone. Thank you very much.
Powerful message for concluding remarks. Just to say that thank you to all of you for your assistance, for participating, because it has been a pleasure to share with all of you the results and impact of our Acceder program. Now, we would like to invite you to join us for a small cocktail just over there, and also to visit the exhibition of panels that reflect these more than 20 years of life of the Acceder program. That's all from our side. Thank you so much for your assistance.